The shuttle's engines hummed steadily as it pierced the heavy atmosphere of the colony planet. Outside, the sky was painted in shades of burnt orange and violet, the sun's dying rays flickering across the uneven terrain below. Inside the cramped cabin, the team was silent, each member lost in their thoughts, the weight of their mission pressing heavily upon them. Elara Voss sat rigidly in her seat, her sharp eyes fixed on the viewport. After months of uncertainty, setbacks, and growing unrest, this was the moment they had been fighting for, the chance to bring back a flicker of light to a colony shrouded in darkness. As the shuttle touched down on the landing pad, a small crowd gathered, their faces a mixture of hope, skepticism, and fatigue. Mira Solon stepped forward, her short frame commanding attention despite the exhaustion etched into her features. "We welcome you back," she said, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "Your journey is our hope." Elara led the team swiftly into the makeshift laboratory, a space cluttered with equipment, blinking consoles, and walls adorned with star charts and hastily scribbled equations. At the center was a communication array, long silent but now humming faintly with anticipation. From her bag, Elara carefully withdrew the device. They had recovered a sleek, compact instrument of unknown origin, pulsing softly with an ethereal blue light. "This is unlike anything we've seen," Linway murmured, stepping forward to examine it. "Its energy signature is stable, and it appears to be designed for communication, but on a scale far beyond our current technology." Elara nodded, her mind racing. "If we can integrate this with our systems, we might restore at least partial contact or discover new signals hidden in the cosmic background." Outside, tensions simmered as factions lingered near the perimeter. Councillor Thane Rykov's loyalists watched with narrowed eyes, distrust evident in their stance. Yet even they could not ignore the palpable shift in the air, a collective yearning for hope that transcended factional lines. Myra took to a makeshift stage, her voice steady and clear. "This device is more than technology. It is a symbol of what we can achieve when we unite. Our survival depends on cooperation, on setting aside old grievances to face the unknown together." Her words were met with cautious applause, the fragile threads of trust beginning to weave a tentative tapestry of unity. Back in the lab, Elara and Linway worked feverishly to interface the alien device with the colony's communication array. Hours passed in a blur of technical adjustments and data analysis. Then, suddenly, the array crackled to life, emitting a burst of static that filled the room. A faint, rhythmic pulse echoed through the speakers, a signal unmistakable and alive. Gasps and whispers swept through the gathered group. Iliara's heart pounded as she recognized the pattern, a beacon of connection, a promise that silence could be broken. "We've done it," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "We're not alone." The room erupted in a mixture of cheers and stunned silence. For the first time in months, the colony dared to dream again. Yet, beneath the jubilation, Elara knew the road ahead was long and fraught with challenges. The technology was unfamiliar and fragile, the factions still fragile and wary. But for now, in this moment of shared triumph, the colony found strength in the light piercing the darkness. As night fully descended, the distant stars shimmered above, silent witnesses to a new chapter unfolding beneath their watchful gaze. Elara stood by the viewport once more, the device's blue glow illuminating her face. In the vast cosmic silence, a new signal pulsed steadily, a beacon of hope, a testament to resilience, and a call to rediscovery. "This is only the beginning," she murmured, determination burning bright within her. "We will find our way back." Outside, the colony stirred with renewed purpose, the fragile bonds of unity knitting tighter with each passing moment. The light in the darkness was no longer a distant dream, but a tangible promise, one that would guide them through the shadows yet to come. And as the first tentative messages crackled through the revived communication channels, a profound truth settled in Elara's heart. Even in the vast silence of space, connection endures. The council chamber was heavy with anticipation, its usual sterile atmosphere charged with palpable unrest. Councillor Thane Rykov entered with his customary steely gaze, the cold calculus of his expression failing to mask the flicker of unease beneath. The flickering holoscreens cast eerie blue light over the assembled faction leaders' faces etched with skepticism, weariness, and a hunger for change. Elara Voss stood at the center, unwavering, her voice steady as she presented the evidence that had begun to unravel the threads of Rykov's control. Her team's painstaking efforts had exposed not only the truth behind the cosmic blackout, but also the manipulations and power plays that had deepened the colony's fractures. Murmurs swelled into whispers, whispers into heated exchanges. Rykov's attempts to assert authority were met with increasing resistance. His once loyal faction wavered, their allegiance strained by the undeniable weight of Elara's revelations and the growing chorus of citizens demanding change. Outside, under the vast expanse of the colony's night sky, a crowd gathered, voices rising in chants of unity and renewal. Myra Solon moved among them, a beacon of calm and encouragement, her bright eyes reflecting the stars above as she spoke of cooperation, survival, and hope. Inside a secure briefing room, Captain Soren Hale and Jox Wren coordinated with Elara, their faces drawn tight with determination. The air was thick with urgency. Every moment counted. Plans were laid to prevent violent clashes that could shatter the fragile progress. Jox's knowledge of the colony's shadowed corners and secret routes became invaluable, enabling swift, precise actions to neutralize remaining loyalists without bloodshed. Soren's steady command of security forces reassured allies and citizens alike, bolstering the collective effort to reclaim the colony's future. Meanwhile, isolated within the cold austerity of his quarters, Councillor Rykov gazed out over the colony he had sought to control. The stars above mirrored the fractures within his ambitions, the silence a stark contrast to the turmoil below. His mind wrestled with bitter reflections, the loss of power, the crumbling of his vision, and the inexorable tide of change sweeping the colony. Resignation settled over him, tinged with a grudging respect for the resilience that had risen against his rule. As the confrontation reached its climax, the colony held its breath. Elara's measured words, backed by irrefutable evidence and the resolve of her allies, pierced through the fog of fear and division. The authoritarian grip loosened. Factions realigned. Citizens found their voices. The reckoning was not just the fall of one man, but the birth of a new era, one forged in the crucible of adversity and tempered by the collective will to survive and thrive. The echoes of the night's events resonated deeply. Trust, though fragile, began to weave anew across the fractured society. The transmission's message of warning and hope had ignited more than just a mission, it had sparked a movement. As dawn crept over the horizon, bathing the colony in soft light, Elara stood among her people, a symbol of resilience and renewal. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges, but for the first time in a long while, the colony dared to believe in the possibility of unity and a shared future. Yet, as shadows of the past lingered and the work of rebuilding loomed large, an unspoken question hung in the air. Could this fragile truce endure? Or would the scars of isolation and civil collapse threaten to unravel the fragile hope that had been so painstakingly won? The colony's fate now rested not on any single leader, but on the collective heart and spirit of its people, determined to find light after silence. The cold fluorescent lights of the council chamber flickered faintly as Dr. Elara Voss stepped up to the podium, her steady gaze sweeping across the gathered representatives. For months, the colony had been fractured, a shattered mosaic of factions vying for survival in the silence left by Earth's inexplicable blackout. But today, a new chapter began, one forged by the cryptic transmission Elara and her team had decoded, a message that carried with it a fragile promise of hope. "We stand at a crossroads," Elara began, her voice calm but resolute. "The transmission we've uncovered is more than just a warning. It is a call to unity, a roadmap for survival beyond the silence. We must rebuild not just our systems and shelters, but trust itself." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Faces once hardened by suspicion softened as delegates exchanged glances. Mira Solon, the pragmatic faction leader, famed for her empathy and tenacity, nodded approvingly from her seat. Captain Soren Hale, the colony's wary security chief, sat upright, his eyes reflecting a cautious hope. The message had done more than illuminate the cosmic blackout's origins. It had become a catalyst. Elara's leadership, tempered by her introspective nature and unwavering resolve, had begun to mend the fractures that had once seemed irreparable. Outside the chamber, the colony was stirring to life. Myra moved through the streets, her presence a balm to tense nerves. She spoke softly with families, helped organize resource distributions, and mediated disputes with a warmth that rekindled communal bonds. The dusty air was thick with the hum of machinery as repair crews restored power lines and water systems, while children's hesitant laughter echoed from newly opened play areas. In the communications lab, a different kind of rebuilding took place. Elara and Dr. Linway leaned over their monitors, deciphering complex schematics to restore partial communication networks. The soft glow of the screens illuminated their focused expressions as data flowed like lifeblood through the rebuilt channels. Their collaboration symbolized the merging of science and governance, a partnership essential to the colony's survival. Yet, the scars of the past lingered. Councillor Thane Rykov, once the colony's iron-fisted ruler, found his power waning. His cold gaze, sharp features etched with frustration, surveyed the shifting allegiances with thinly veiled resentment. His faction's grip loosened as citizens demanded transparency and cooperation, though whispers of dissent still simmered beneath the surface. Amidst the political and social rebirth, personal healing unfolded quietly. At the colony's edge, Naomi Voss waited. When Elara emerged from the lab, weary but determined, Naomi's arms opened in an embrace that bridged months of silence and hurt. Their reunion was fragile, charged with unspoken apologies and the tentative rebuilding of familial trust, a microcosm of the colony's broader journey. The days that followed were a tapestry of cautious progress. The new council convened regularly, guided by principles of inclusivity and shared responsibility. Debates were spirited but civil, a stark contrast to the factional warfare that had once threatened to tear the colony apart. Infrastructure projects advanced steadily, and social programs aimed at healing psychological wounds gained momentum. Elara often found herself walking the colony's winding paths at dusk, stars piercing the darkening sky like scattered diamonds. The silence that had once crushed her spirit now felt different, less an end and more a vast canvas upon which new stories could be painted. She contemplated the transmission's words, the fragile hope it embodied, and the resilience of the human spirit that refused to be extinguished. Yet the question lingered in every mind: Could this fragile peace endure? Could the colony truly transcend its fractured past to build a future defined not by fear and isolation, but by trust and cooperation? As night deepened, Elara's thoughts were interrupted by the urgent call of a nearby communicator. The faint pulse of a new signal flickered through the statica, subtle reminder that the cosmos still whispered its secrets, and the colony's journey was far from over. With a deep breath, Elara squared her shoulders. The darkness was profound, but within it flickered the light of possibility, and as long as that light endured, so too would the colony. The silence was no longer empty. It was filled with the promise of rebuilding bridges between people, factions, and the stars themselves. The next chapter awaited, and Elara was ready to lead the way. The twin suns of the colony planet had just begun their slow ascent over the jagged horizon. Casting long, warm fingers of light through the observatory's massive glass dome, Dr. Elara Voss stood alone at the summit, her sharp eyes tracing the familiar yet alien constellations that stretched out above her. The air was crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of ionized dust and cold metal, a reminder of the colony's fragile existence on this distant world. As dawn crept forward, the sky shifted from deep indigo to soft lavender and amber, a breathtaking canvas that belied the turmoil beneath. Elara's mind was a whirlwind of calculations and possibilities, the encoded transmissions they had deciphered still echoing in her thoughts. Efforts to restore contact with Earth had been painstaking and fraught with disappointment. The silence persisted, vast and unyielding. Yet, the faint signals they had recently detected, mere whispers on the cosmic wind, kindled a fragile ember of hope within her. Descending from the observatory, Elara made her way to the heart of the colony, where the central communication hub hummed with renewed activity. Inside, Mira Solon and Captain Soren Hale stood amid holographic star maps, their faces illuminated by the cool blue glow of the displays. The tension in the room was palpable, but underscored by a shared resolve that had been absent for months. Myra, ever the mediator, addressed the gathered faction leaders with a voice steady and calm. "We stand at a crossroads," she said, eyes sweeping over the diverse faces assembled. "The path ahead is uncertain, but together we have faced worse. This new dawn offers not just survival, but a chance to redefine who we are." Captain Hale nodded, his usually stoic expression softening slightly. "Security remains tight, but we are committed to protecting this fragile peace. The transmissions hint at others, perhaps survivors or allies. We must be ready for whatever we find." Elara stepped forward, her voice carrying the quiet authority honed by months of relentless pursuit. "The signals we've detected are faint, fragmented, but unmistakable. They suggest that Earth's silence is not abandonment, but the aftermath of a cosmic event beyond our control. Our work now is to decode these messages fully and prepare for what they might mean." The leaders exchanged glances, the weight of uncertainty balanced by the promise of purpose. Plans were laid to upgrade the colony's receivers and expand their listening range, with Ilaros' team at the helm. The hours that followed were a blur of activity cables, strung, consoles calibrated, algorithms refined. The faint crackles and pulses from the vast beyond became a symphony of potential, filling the sterile rooms with an almost sacred energy. Meanwhile, outside the walls of the compound, the colony's citizens gathered in the open squares as evening fell. Fires sputtered to life, casting dancing shadows against the alien architecture. The air was alive with the hum of conversation, bursts of laughter, and the soft strumming of makeshift instruments. Stories of loss, survival, and hope intermingled beneath the emerging stars, weaving a tapestry of resilience that bound the community closer than ever. Elara wandered through the crowd, absorbing the warmth and determination that radiated from her people. Her own doubts flickered at the edges of her mind, the long nights spent in solitude and obsession weighing heavily. Yet, seeing the faces around her scarred but unyielding, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The colony was no longer just an outpost lost to the void. It was a living testament to human endurance, a beacon flickering defiantly in the cosmic silence. As the night deepened, Elara returned to the communications center, where the team's latest data streams revealed new, tantalizing hints of life beyond their isolated world. The signals were still faint, their meaning cryptic, but they were their proof that the universe had not forsaken them entirely. "It's not the reconnection we dreamed of," Elara said softly to Myra and Captain Hale, "but it's the beginning of something. A new dawn for us all." Myra smiled, her eyes bright with hope. "Then we move forward, together." Captain Hale's voice was resolute. "No matter the cost, we protect that hope." Outside, the stars shone down on the colony, silent witnesses to a world reborn from isolation and fear. The journey ahead was uncertain, the road long and fraught with challenges yet unseen. But in this moment, beneath the vast expanse of the cosmos, a new dawn had indeed broken. And as Elara gazed upward, the flickering stars whispered promises of light after silence, of connection beyond the void, and of the enduring human spirit that would never cease to reach for the unknown. The twin moons hovered low in the sky, casting a pale, ethereal light across the observation platform where Dr. Elara Voss stood silently, her gaze fixed upon the infinite canvas of stars above. Each point of light was a thread, a fragile connection stretching across the void to Earth, to the lost past, to the hope of a future not yet written. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint metallic scent of the colony's atmosphere, and the quiet hum of distant machinery underscored the stillness of the moment. Elara's thoughts drifted beyond the physical, weaving through the intangible threads that bound the colony together. Isolation was not merely a matter of distance or silence. It was the invisible chasm carved into the human spirit when connection faltered. Yet, here, beneath the vast heavens, she felt those threads pulse with a fragile vitality. The transmission they had uncovered, the alliances forged in the crucible of crisis, these were the beginnings of a new tapestry, woven from hope and resilience. Behind her, footsteps approached softly. Myra Solan's warm smile broke the quiet. "You always find peace out here," Myra said, her voice a gentle contrast to the cold night. Elara nodded, turning to meet her friend's bright eyes. "It reminds me why we fight to hold onto the stars, to each other." They moved back inside the observation tower, where Captain Soren Hale awaited. His usual stern demeanor was softened by a tentative smile, a sign of the shifting tides within him. "The factions are talking again," he said, pulling up a hollow display that flickered with images of the colony's sectors and faction leaders. "They're willing to listen, for once." Myra's optimism was cautious but genuine. "It's fragile, but it's a start. We need to keep building on this slowly, carefully." Elara studied the map, seeing not just terrain and politics, but the intricate web of relationships and dependencies that sustained them all. "Connection isn't just about technology," she mused aloud. "It's about trust, shared purpose, the willingness to see beyond fear." Later, in a quiet corner of the colony, Elara found herself face to face with her younger sister Naomi. Their relationship had been strained, fractured by years of silence, misunderstandings, and the deep fissures carved by the colony's turmoil. But tonight, the walls between them felt thinner. Naomi's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "I was angry, Elara. You disappeared into your work, into the stars, while everything fell apart here. I felt abandoned." Elara's gaze softened, the weight of those words settling between them. "I was trying to find a way back for all of us," she replied quietly. "But I lost sight of what was right in front of me, my family, my home." They shared a long silence, the kind that speaks of pain and healing intertwined. "Maybe we can find a way forward," Naomi said, finally, "together." As the days turned, the colony's communal hall became a place of cautious negotiation and collaboration. Representatives from factions once at odds now gathered around the holographic map, their voices tentative but purposeful. Elara stood beside Mira and Captain Hale, offering insights drawn from the stars and from the fragile human experiences that defined their struggle. The discussions were punctuated by moments of tension. Old fears and grudges surfaced like shadows, but each was met with a steady hand, a patient word, a reminder of their shared fate. The colony was no longer a fractured collection of isolated enclaves. It was becoming a living network of connections, woven from threads of trust, hope, and a collective will to survive. Elara's heart swelled with a quiet, determined hope. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers seen and unseen. But as she looked around at the faces illuminated by the holographic glow, she saw something that had been missing: connection in its most human form. And in that connection lay the promise of a new dawn. The stars above continued their silent vigil, but beneath their watchful gaze, the colony's light was rekindling, one thread at a time. And Elara knew that no matter how vast the silence, the human spirit's need to connect would always find a way to bridge the void. Yet even as hope blossomed, a lingering question remained: could these fragile bonds withstand the storms still to come? The answer would unfold in the days ahead, as the colony's fate intertwined ever more tightly with the threads of connection they were only beginning to weave.